I'd like to know the exact timeline of my mother's death, Kathy. You were there for that. You know all about that. You told me she was sick. Why didn't you do more? My mother was young, Kathy. She was so young. Much younger than your mother was when she died. Why didn't you do more to save my mom, Kathy? If there had to have been more to be done to save me, Ma, at 80-something years old, there must have been so much to be done for my mother, who was only 56. My mother was only 56, Kathy. What did you do to her? Why did you wait so long before coming forward to talk about the abuse that she went through? Why did you wait so long to decide that it was time, that you didn't want to go another day without speaking out? You know, you're telling everybody, I'm abusive, and you need to tell people because you spent so long not speaking out about it. Why did you wait so long to speak out about my mom, Kathy? Why were you holding fundraisers to send men to desecrate my little brother's grave while my mother was dying, Kathy? Is that something I did to you? While your mother was in the hospital dying, was I holding fundraisers to send people over to desecrate your child or your grandchild's grave? I don't remember doing that to you. But you definitely did that to me. And then the day my mom was buried, what were you doing, Kathy? Were you at her funeral? Or were you posting videos of your toilet bowl to YouTube? What did you do to my mom, Kathy? What did you do to my mother? You're her older sister. You were supposed to protect her. Did she die in a hospital? Was she there for a long time? Now, if it's my fault that my grandmother died after being in the hospital for the majority of that year, whose fault is it that my mother died after being in the hospital for a very long time? Can it be your fault? I really want it to be your fault. I'd really like it to be your fault, Kathy. You know why? Do you know why? Because as humans, we like to be able to place the blame on somebody when we're hurting. As humans, when something bad happens, we like to be able to point the finger and say, you. Because it gives us some inner peace and some catharsis. Even if that means that we're going to hate that person for the rest of our life. It gives us a reason for why this horrible thing happened. It's not life. It was you. There has to be somebody physical responsible for it. Kathy chose me as the one physically responsible for her mother's death. Well, I'm going to choose Kathy as the one physically responsible for my mother's death. Kathy's also physically responsible for my little brother's handicap. How do you like that, Kathy? How do you like them apples, bitch? How do you like the idea that if you were very well aware that your little sister was married to an abusive piece of trash who put her in the hospital multiple times, and you said nothing? You allowed that man to continue beating your sister until they literally handicapped one of their children. And then, my mother was arrested and went to jail for prostitution just weeks after little Ronnie was born. And what did you do then, Kathy? Did you come forward and say, my sister needs help? Her husband is forcing her to do this. He beats her. Look what he did to this baby. No, you didn't do that, did you? You said, well, I'll take the baby. This time, Trina, I'll take the baby until you get out of jail. But I'm never doing it again. I am never bailing you out again, little sister. You shouldn't have bailed her out the first time. You should have told the truth about what you knew was happening in that house. Instead of allowing it to continue for another 30 years until the man put a fucking gun in his face. You want to talk about blame, Kathy? You want to blame people? Well, I blame you for a whole lot. The difference is that I'm letting that go. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life blaming you for what my parents did, or blaming you just because you weren't there, just because you didn't stop it, just because you're a human being that existed in the vicinity and couldn't do anything. The difference is you actually could have done something. You had 3 decades of my mother's being beaten by my father to step up and do something. And what did you do? You took over the reins to abuse the family scapegoat the second they were gone. Good job. Real class act.